The accounting of the third year of the Cicada 3301 enigma, that spectral visitation of the digital ether in 2014, stands in stark contrast to the relatively coherent nightmares that preceded it. Where once a singular, baleful icon heralded the commencement of the intellectual inquisition, the third year dawned with a disquieting silence, a void where expectation festered into unease. To merely enumerate its aspects as absent clues and fragmented appearances is to sanitize the cosmic dread that clung to this period, a dread born not of overt horror, but of a creeping sense of dissolution and the chilling realization that the familiar patterns had begun to unravel, hinting at a deeper, more chaotic intelligence at play. Let us then, with trembling hand and morbid curiosity, attempt to chart the unsettling contours of this year, through the prism of a sensibility attuned to both the visceral and the cosmic. 1. The unholy silence, the absence of the harbinger. The appointed day, the 5th of January in the year 2014, arrived not with the anticipated digital shriek, the cryptic emanation from the shadowed corners of the internet that had marked the previous visitations. Instead, a pallid stillness descended upon the expectant forums and the hushed corners of the web where the devotees of this intellectual danse macabre had gathered. The accustomed image, the hieroglyph pregnant with unspoken dread, failed to materialize. This absence was not merely a delay, it was a rupture in the established ritual, a chilling deviation that suggested a shift in the very nature of the entity behind the enigma. Had the cicada fallen silent? Had its cryptic pronouncements ceased? Or had its methods become more insidious, more deeply buried within the fabric of the digital realm, beyond the immediate grasp of even the most vigilant seekers? This initial void was a breeding ground for conjecture, a fertile soil for the tendrils of paranoia to take root. Whispers arose of tests failed, of a judgment passed unseen, of a withdrawal into deeper, more inaccessible dimensions of the digital cosmos. The silence itself became a form of torment, a pregnant pause before a potential descent into even more unfathomable depths. 2. The sporadic manifestations, fragmented glimpses of a shattered nightmare. As the days bled into weeks, and the initial unease threatened to curdle into despair, the silence was broken not by a clear, coherent pronouncement, but by fleeting, disjointed fragments. Clues, like shards of a shattered mirror reflecting distorted realities, appeared sporadically across a multitude of platforms, their origins often obscure, their connections tenuous. No longer was there a central point of dissemination. The enigma had seemingly fractured, its pieces scattered across the digital landscape like the remnants of a forgotten ritual. This decentralization amplified the sense of chaos and made the already arduous task of solving exponentially more challenging. Individuals and small, isolated conclaves of seekers found themselves grappling with disparate fragments, unsure of their relationship to one another or to any overarching design. The familiar structure of sequential puzzles seemed to have dissolved into a more fluid, more unsettling form, hinting at a mind that operated according to a logic alien to human comprehension, a logic that perhaps reveled in the disorientation and fragmentation of the seeking minds. These sporadic manifestations were like glimpses into a broken reality, each fragment hinting at a larger, more terrifying whole that remained tantalizingly out of reach. 3. The esoteric calculus, cryptography and the language of lost souls. The fragments that did emerge were steeped in a more arcane and demanding form of intellectual torment. Cryptography remained a central pillar, but the techniques employed seemed to delve into more obscure and mathematically rigorous territories. Beyond the familiar ciphers, whispers arose of elliptic curve cryptography and other esoteric methods that demanded a profound understanding of abstract algebra and number theory. Intertwined with these cryptographic challenges were the pronouncements of long-dead philosophers, their words twisted and contorted to serve as keys or components of the puzzles. The very fabric of rational thought seemed to be under assault, as logic and reason were forced to grapple with concepts that bordered on the mystical and the irrational. The solutions, when glimpsed, often felt less like logical deductions and more like intuitive leaps across chasms of incomprehension, as if the very act of solving required a temporary suspension of conventional thought and an opening to more primal modes of understanding. This fusion of cold mathematics and abstract philosophy hinted at a mind that sought not merely intelligence, but a specific kind of intellect, one capable of navigating the treacherous currents where logic and intuition intertwined. 4. The hidden harmonies, gematria and the resonance of numbers. A disquieting trend emerged in the puzzles of this year: the increased reliance on gematria and numerological patterns. The seemingly arbitrary assignment of numerical values to letters and the subsequent manipulation of these numbers according to arcane rules suggested a belief in hidden correspondences, a cosmic harmony woven from the very fabric of language and mathematics. This was a descent into a world where meaning was not derived from conventional semantics but from the mystical resonance of numbers, a concept that has haunted the fringes of human thought for millennia. The seekers found themselves poring over ancient texts and esoteric tables, attempting to decipher the numerical signatures embedded within the clues, as if the very universe possessed a secret language spoken not in words but in the silent language of numbers. This obsession with numerical significance lent a distinctly occult flavor to the proceedings, hinting at an intelligence that perceived the world not as a collection of discrete objects but as an interconnected web of numerical vibrations. 5. The whispers of the ancient ones, occult and esoteric currents. The thematic undercurrent of the 2014 puzzles flowed into darker, more unsettling territories. References to occult practices, esoteric traditions, and forgotten mystical systems became increasingly prevalent. The names of obscure deities, the symbols of ancient cults, and fragments of long-lost rituals appeared within the clues, lending a distinctly sinister and potentially blasphemous air to the enigma. It was as if the cicada was not merely testing intellectual prowess but probing the seeker's familiarity with forbidden knowledge, with the very undercurrents of human belief that often lie dormant beneath the veneer of rationality. This descent into the occult hinted at a purpose far beyond a mere intellectual game, suggesting a potential connection to forces and entities that dwell in the shadowed corners of human history and beyond the perceived boundaries of reality. The puzzles seemed to whisper of ancient pacts and cosmic entities whose influence stretched across millennia, a chilling implication that the cicada's origins and intentions might be far more profound and terrifying than previously imagined. 6. The persistent shadows, the continued embrace of Tor. Despite the shift in the presentation of the puzzles, the Tor network and its hidden services remained a steadfast element of the enigma. This unwavering commitment to anonymity and the deeper layers of the digital realm underscored the clandestine nature of the undertaking. It suggested a deliberate attempt to operate outside the purview of conventional surveillance and to attract a specific type of seeker, one comfortable navigating the shadowed pathways of the internet, unafraid of the potential dangers that lurked within its hidden corners. The continued reliance on Tor reinforced the sense that this was not a game sanctioned by any known authority, but something operating in the liminal spaces between the visible and the unseen, a phenomenon that thrived in the obscurity of the digital underworld. The hidden services became digital sanctuaries, potential nexus points for further revelations, accessible only to those willing to venture into the internet's most concealed domains. 7. The scattered tribes, decentralized pursuit, and the loss of unity. The fragmented nature of the clues had a profound impact on the community of seekers. The once relatively unified effort to decipher the enigma fractured into smaller, isolated groups, each grappling with their own piece of the puzzle. The shared sense of progress and the collective excitement that had characterized the previous years began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of isolation and uncertainty. The lack of a central forum or a clear path forward made collaboration difficult, and the risk of pursuing false leads or hoaxes increased significantly. This decentralization may have been a deliberate tactic on the part of the puzzle creators, a test of individual resilience and the ability to navigate ambiguity without the support of a unified community. It fostered an environment where paranoia and suspicion could easily take root, further complicating the already challenging task of solving the puzzles. The scattered tribes of seekers, each wrestling with their own fragment of the nightmare, mirrored a world slowly succumbing to incomprehensible chaos. 8. The unresolved echoes, the absence of a definitive conclusion. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the third year was its lack of a clear and universally acknowledged resolution. Unlike the previous years, where a sense of progression and eventual, albeit cryptic, closure was achieved, the puzzles of 2014 seemed to fade away without a definitive endpoint. Many of the later clues remained unsolved, their meanings elusive, their purpose unclear. This ambiguity left a lingering sense of unease, a feeling that the enigma had not been solved but had merely ceased, perhaps retreating into an even deeper layer of obscurity. The absence of a clear resolution fueled further speculation and debate within the community, with some suggesting that the true solution remained hidden, accessible only to a select few, while others posited that the third year was a deliberate exercise in frustration, a test of the seeker's perseverance in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles. The unresolved echoes of 2014 served as a chilling reminder that the Cicada's intentions might be ultimately unknowable, its games played according to rules that defied human understanding. 9. The murmur of deception, the rise of speculation and the shadow of hoaxes. The void left by the lack of clear clues and the fragmented nature of the appearances created a fertile ground for speculation and the insidious growth of hoaxes. With no central authority or verifiable path, the online forums and discussion boards became awash with unconfirmed theories, fabricated clues, and deliberate attempts to mislead and confuse the genuine seekers. The signal-to-noise ratio plummeted, making the already difficult task of discerning authentic clues from elaborate fabrications even more challenging. This environment of uncertainty and potential deception added another layer of psychological torment to the enigma, forcing seekers to not only grapple with complex intellectual challenges but also to constantly question the veracity of the information they encountered. The murmur of deception became a constant companion, a chilling reminder that not all shadows held genuine secrets. Some were merely the phantoms conjured by human mischief, or perhaps even by the architects themselves as a further layer of obfuscation.